Hello, I'm Gareth Vaughan from interest.co.nz, and I'm here today with another double shot interview where we talk to a business leader or a CEO or someone that we think is interesting and worth talking to. And today I've got Serious Fraud Office Director Adam Feeley with me. Welcome, Adam, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Look, you recently laid some I guess, final charges, they were called, against Bridgecorp directors Rod Petricevic and Robert Roost. These aren't the absolute final ones, and you seem to, in your announcement, be saying that this was a particularly important case. Why is this one so important?
Well, I think there are probably 3 or 4 investigations into the larger failures that we could have put that label on, but certainly there have been a lot of public expectations around a decision in respect of Bridgecorp, and as we made clear, this was a conclusion of all aspects of Bridgecorp. There were a lot of transactions looked at. As you'll be aware, we laid some specific charges against Mr Petricevic and Mr Roost. There were other matters which we looked at, and while there was potentially grounds for additional charges, we felt that the charges which had been brought by the Securities Commission covered off those transactions we'd also looked at. So I think it's a bit of a landmark in the sense that these were major investigations, and to some extent the public need to understand that we've made some decisions, we're moving on, and the focus of SFO in the future has to be around new cases, which inevitably there will be some.
Do you anticipate further taking up further cases against additional finance companies? I mean, we've got obviously some receiverships in recent times that have been high-profile. Strategic comes to mind, St Lawrence. Hanover isn't in receivership, obviously, but that's one that people are still talking a lot about. Did you anticipate any of those or other ones that you're not currently investigating might pop up on your radar?
Well, obviously we don't speculate on companies which we're not actually investigating. We are, as you'll be aware, still looking at Five Star Finance, Nathan's Finance, and also more recently Capital Merchant. I've made it clear that quick conclusions, and quick in the context of our investigation is not in a few days, but it is certainly, I think, quicker than has been the case in the past. Quick conclusions on those cases are important. In respect of all 3 of those, we are in a position, I think, to be making announcements within the next month or so. New cases or new companies being speculated on. It's not for us to speculate unless we have some reason to suspect that there may be evidence of criminal offending. We obviously stay in touch with the likes of the Registrar of Companies, the Securities Commission, where they have had matters referred to them. And we're also, part of what SFO is trying to do now is actually have a much closer working relationship with receivers and liquidators. And I wouldn't say we're talking to them on a daily basis, but we're talking to them a lot more regularly than we did in the past. And so part of our focus will be getting, if you like, far earlier intelligence to figure out whether there are grounds for us to launch an investigation.
And are there any sort of new cases that are popping up on the horizon regarding finance companies at the moment?
Well, put it this way, we don't announce them with you before we announce them more publicly. But there are a couple of I guess you could term it preliminary inquiries we're making in respect of 2 or 3 companies, yes.
Okay, finance companies.
How you define finance companies is a bit of an open-ended, but certainly companies which have taken investments from the public and on-loaned them to other businesses or other transactions, yeah.
And the 3 that are publicly, there's public knowledge that you are currently investigating, Capital and Merchant, Nathan's and Five Star. So you're saying that those should be concluded within about a month?
Well, actually, in the case of one of them, they're concluded in terms of we are not actively investigating. We're in the stage of writing up reports and discussing. We discuss all our cases with our external prosecution counsel. So it's very much in the final stages. We have a view on it, and we're firming up that view for a decision, as I say, whether to charge or announce that there will be no charges. The other 2 also are very much towards the the end of the investigation process, and we think we'll be getting towards a true end of that investigation within the next month or so.
Can you comment at this point on what, if any, charges are likely in those cases?
No, I can't.
Okay. One comment that you made in the Bridgecorp announcement that I thought was very interesting, that New Zealanders tended to consider that there was fraud involved in all finance company collapses, and this simply wasn't the case. Can you expand a little on perhaps what you were trying to get at with that comment?
Well, exactly that. There simply wasn't criminal offending. There is obviously a range of things which took down these companies. Some companies were just literally taken down by the market, got caught in a bad position. Other companies, I think it would be fair to say, were fairly sharp in some of their practices, but there is a big and important distinction between commercially sharp and acting in a criminal manner. I think there's a real issue for New Zealand to grapple with regarding the level of business and financial literacy of a lot of the investing public in New Zealand. And unfortunately, I think we've got ourselves into a situation with the finance company collapse that there are large parts of the New Zealand public that won't invest because they believe every time there's a failure, something criminal must have happened. There are cases which I don't want to comment on in particular, but I'm sure you're aware of, where the prospectuses were actually fairly clear, albeit fairly complicated, in what you were investing in. And if people had read those prospectuses very carefully and perhaps also taken good independent advice, they might have thought twice about whether they were good investments. And I make the comment, I think quite often New Zealanders spend more time researching the best dishwasher around the country to buy for $1,000 or $2,000 than they do when considering whether to put $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 of their retirement savings into something they don't understand. And as I say, sometimes they didn't understand it, but that doesn't make it criminal.
So how do you think we tackle this issue? I mean, is it a matter of going right back to schools and improving financial literacy from that point onwards?
Well, this is probably a little bit beyond the brief of SFO, but it's certainly something in our new business plan that we've signalled that I think we've got a partial role to play. I'm sure the proposed Financial Markets Authority will look at it, and certainly something the Capital Markets Development Task Force signalled is an area for improvement. It's a tough one, but I suppose also having these sorts of discussion in the media that people we pay growing level of attention to business issues, I think will help improve New Zealand's understanding of these kind of things. And I think we've got a lot of room for improvement.
Now, you mentioned the government's new Financial Markets Authority. What, if anything, is that going to mean for the SFO?
It's a good question, and the honest answer at the moment is I'm not sure. I plan on meeting with a number of the establishment board members over the next few weeks. I guess from an SFO perspective, the issue of criminal law enforcement is an important one, and perhaps one which hasn't been to date completely covered in the work that's been undertaken. If you talk about it in the current context, the Securities Commission clearly have an authority to act in the criminal law, but in a fairly carefully prescribed manner. I mean, it's got very specific questions,